Ladies, gentlemen, am I often forgotten, but certainly not by me, Sticky Bombs. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to another video. This video is going to be a slightly different approach. Instead of being a full-on guide, we're going to be taking a look at some more unpopular methods for certain bosses. So this video is just going to be a slightly more relaxed format than the usual guide or anything like that, of just exploring some of the unpopular combinations of combat styles in bosses. And in today's video, this is no exception, as melee at Glacor is relatively hated by the community. Not too many people do it. There is a small group of people who enjoy melee Glacor, and as a fun little tidbit, I think it's either the third or the fourth 200 KS at Glacor was done with melee camp, so there is a history here at this boss with using the melee combat style. However, most people will either range or magic camp or do some type of hybrid setup. But today we're just going to be taking a look at melee camp. So I put a preset here together. It's kind of just a bog standard. I have my Langs, a two-hand swap, a spear, a scythe for the minions. The EOFs are just D-Claw, D2H for more minion clearing ability, and an easy K. I am bringing a glove swap, and you might see this ECB here and wonder, why the heck do I have it? Well, it turns out when you use Meteor Strike with melee and combo it with a Hydrix Greco swap like this ECB, you can get some extreme adrenaline gain rather quickly, which is a lot of fun for things like spamming D-Claws. Other than that, just kind of standard practice as far as food, some portents, vuln bombs. The pouches here are just so I have Venge and Disrupt Shield, although I almost always forget to Venge. And that's pretty much it as far as the setup is concerned. And as far as relics are concerned, I'm just kind of using a bog standard setup here with Death Ward, Fury the Small, and COE. I really like using COE with melee. It makes it a lot nicer, especially when using Meteor Strike. Fury of the Small is nice because more adrenaline is better just with all the combat styles, but specifically with melee, any little bit of adrenaline is going to help. And Death Ward just keeps you alive at this boss, so nothing really too special here. And as far as rage is concerned, I think I'm just going to try like maybe 1000%, maybe a 1500% kill if 1000% goes well, and we'll just see what happens. Alrighty, got the preset here loaded up, ready to go. Go ahead and see what this is actually like. I think I'm going to start off with the easy K rotation just to kind of play it safe. And just using Majrat Aura, nothing too fancy there. I'm actually going to turn off the voiceovers because this is the one boss where I find the voiceovers honestly pretty obnoxious. Let's just try 1000% to see how this goes. Less than 100 ammo in the quiver, and we should be fine. And target cycle with a Chaos Roar. Got minions first, so we can go ahead and just put a bleed on there. Just so the easy K will last long enough. Use like Hurricane Flurry on these guys. Seems to clean them up rather nicely. Got a cleave there, and we're good to go. Yeah, that's not too bad. Toss a few more bleeds on here. Looks like we're going into, yeah, we're going into a pillar, so definitely a nice play just to have easy K going, because any bleed that's going on the boss will still be damaging it while we're over here, so that's kind of nice. And then for pillars, I just kind of play it safe. I don't really attack the boss too much. It's kind of the only annoying part about melee streaking or just using melee at this boss. But there's a wide hitbox here, so you can attack pretty much anywhere along this row at Glacor. Here we'll go ahead and do, I'm going to hit Flurry and then probably start a Meteor Strike. Do one more basic. Hit Meteor. Hit Greco. Hit Anticipate. Dirk. Barge. Maybe Lang Spec into another Greco. Bleed my Assault. Out of focus here, so now we can just do a lot of damage. I'll hit D-Long instead of, or D2H instead of D-Claw. That was a fat finger. And we could just start another easy K, because I think we just have the cannon next. Yep, we just have a cannon attack, so we can just keep damaging here. This is overall pretty fun. Melee is a fun style right now. Especially if you can get in a bunch of Greco hits for adrenaline after Meteor Strike. That's a lot of fun just to get off decals. It is quite the RNG setup, but that's what makes it fun. Yeah, overall, this is pretty enjoyable. I'm just going to hold off here to see what spec we get, and we're still trying to... Easy K is still going. And I'll just hit Flurry on these guys. Be mindful of my Prey Flicks. Hurricane this guy. Oh, I don't have it off cooldown. Now here I actually want to pay attention and see what spec comes next, because I don't want to try and start up like a whole Zerk rotation and just go into a pillar. Alright, so we got ourselves an arm. Honestly, not too bad. We do the same tactic we did last time. Go ahead and hit Meteor Strike into a Rico. Maybe a Hurricane just for funsies. Dissipate. We even have APOT this time. This should be fun. Into a Lang spec. Into another Rico. Lead the Assault. Go for an Overpower. We got a cannon, so we can keep DPSing for the meantime. Be a last minute declaw. That hit pretty well. Although it kind of screwed us on adrenaline. But we always have Divert here to save us. We can get ourselves an easy K going. Just kind of rotate between the two. Other than the pillar attack, it's honestly pretty nice. Love swap to get some extra bleed damage off. Maybe hit it over with the overpower and run away. That should kill it. Yeah, that's not too bad of a method. Kill time's a bit slow. I'm looking at about a 355. I think I've had some kills on streams in the past where I've done like a streak or two. So far with Melee Glacor, I've done a streak up to about 900 and then died from a Prey Flick. And I've done some other individual kills here and there, but honestly not too much. However, I do think this is a pretty fun method. If you haven't tried Melee here so far, definitely give it a shot. I recommend it. The kill time seems a little bit slow, 355 for 1000%. That's definitely behind the pace of other combat styles, but if this is all you have, you want to run for a Glacor log, I'm sure you can optimize this a lot better than I have so far, and you could fully send it, no problem. And if you wanted more consistent damage, you could look into some rotations that use Easy K inside of the Berserk, and that involves boosting Champion's Ring. Now, as far as whip is concerned, you do get forced off the boss a lot, so you're going to be losing your whip stacks. I'm sure it's still worthwhile to bring the whip here and use it for its stacks, because I think at most bosses you end up losing stacks anyway. However, pretty much in every single Melee video I've ever done, I talk about how much I dislike whip, so I'm just going to avoid that altogether. Let's see what we got for loot, though. The Uncut Dragon Stones, not too bad. Let's bump up the Enrage a little bit and see what we can do a little bit higher Enrage. Alrighty, we have the preset loaded up once again. Now, I have been doing some attempts. You'll notice my aura is quite a bit down from the first send at 1k, and that is because I've been trying to do some 2k kills, and they've been pretty unreliable. Usually just missing a Prey Flick. That got me once or twice, but just the other times of zerking during a frenzy or whatever attack you want to call it, or just zerking in general at 2k, it's pretty unreliable with using like Grim investments and whatnot. So I guess if you wanted to push a Melee 200ks with investments, you might want to go with some type of poison setup using Vamp, Scrim, and Aura or something like that. But for lower enrages, we're going to try 1500 here just to see how that feels. And I'm sure it'll be fine, right? You know, hopefully that's not foreshadowing or anything. Chaos Roar into an easy K. As many bleeds off as we can. We've got a pillar attack here. Also, I turned the sound effects off, or the voiceovers here, because they were added in after the fact, and they don't really sound too good at this boss. I really dislike them. A little bit of a risky run there, but worse has happened. And we're going right into an arms here, so now I can go ahead and prep for a Zerk. Did not get much adrenaline from that Grico, but shouldn't be too big of an issue. Because we can just hit another Grico here. Get our lengths back off. And just start doing some damage. And what we can do here is get a divert. Chaos Roar and go right back into an easy K. Build up this easy K a little bit. Did get minions, so slightly annoying, but we have ways to deal with that. Flurry usually does pretty well, and then what you can do is equip Scythe and just hit Hurricane. That'll hit any of the other ones that are still alive. They're usually on like 2k. Okay, one survived, but is what it is. And can get a res for our HP here. And hit Devotion Late and just go into another Meteor. Might as well. Did not get a Barge Bleed here. And just an Assault to finish it off. Did not have a time to get a the res on the third hit, so we'll just res that one. Go for another easy K. Just kind of rotate back and forth. We're getting pretty lucky with specs, so we're able to DPS the boss a lot. And so far, this doesn't feel too bad at 1500. This feels pretty manageable. 2k was a little bit ridiculous as far as damage intake is concerned. It was definitely feeling a bit overwhelming, but here is not too bad. 1500, I think you could push up to this relatively consistently, and then maybe swap over to a poison camp setup with, I've seen some poison setups with melee that do go pretty hard, considering you don't have Bic arrows, but it still just deletes things with all the poison hits that come out. So maybe if this was a duo boss, you could do something like that with having a range buddy, do some Bic arrow stuff. You never know. Let's go for Meteor just because we can. Hit these guys with a D2H. I didn't have enough adrenaline there for the last D-Claw. That kind of worked out. D2H is definitely very nice for dealing with minions if they come out when you're zerking. That's kind of why they're there. I don't use it because it's heavy adren otherwise. Oh, that was not a good beat. Let me out. Okay, now that we're safe. I usually don't use it when it's just the minions and I've just easy K'd or something like that, just because it's a lot of adrenaline for only one hit. But if you're already under crit buff, D2H really comes into a realm of its own for as far as AoE damage is concerned. And if you're Leng Spect and it hits 13Ks, that can pretty much wipe out the minions, so... Another Grico off, just keep building per usual, kind of following the same things I've been doing already. Gonna res off just as we can, and it's only 100k, so just kind of burst it down. E-Claw spam, go! We love some good old declaw spam. Now, that was a pretty slow kill. 543 for 1500%. That is definitely on the slow side as far as best in slot Glacor is concerned. But if this is what you have gear-wise, you can certainly do this boss. And maybe later on, not in this video, but maybe the next episode or something like that, I'll take a look at higher in rage with more of a poison-focused build, just to see what's up with that and how it functions. But just for funsies, see what the loot is. Hydrix bolts, can't complain too much there. Alright, so here are my final thoughts about melee usage at Glacor. It's a pretty entertaining setup, I won't lie. Having Meteor Strike on tap with a Greco swap is probably some of the most fun I've had with melee in a while, just because the amount of declaws you can get off, 3 or 4 declaws in a Zerk while still getting a Bled Assault, Overpower, Hurricane, and even a Destroy. It's definitely one of the better setups in terms of like smiles per hour, so to speak. By no means is this the most efficient method for the boss, just for the sheer fact of when you get forced away here, which is kind of a lot during the specs. Upkeeping the DPM rotations that melee has to offer here is a lot more difficult, especially with things like pillars literally forcing you off the boss, and then you can kind of do some, I've seen some things where you barge in and maybe bleed like a flurry or destroy and then go off. But when you're sitting here on this back wall during the pillars, which is forced, it's really difficult to deal with all of that going on, and since melee is the one that doesn't have a distance available to it, you pretty much have to be melee distance. Now, I will give points to this boss because the hitbox for the boss, actually, you can be standing, I believe, on either this tile or this tile and still attack the boss, because its hitbox is actually in this region here. You'll notice if you stand on like any of these tiles on this southern wall here and then hit an ability, you do actually get forced out, which is nice that you have such a wide sweep here to attack from. However, melee still needs to be melee distance, so that's where it gets a few points off. However, if you start to introduce this into hybrid setups, that's where it really shines, but that's not the point of this video. I know I've been talking a lot about hybrid recently, it's just something that's very exciting and I find a lot of interest in, but I digress. And overall, if this is the combat style you have, I definitely recommend checking out Glacor. You can use pretty much a full crit build here, or if you have your preferred melee rotations, probably using Whip with Champion's Ring and going more of that route, I could see a very good DPM focused setup here using something like that. However, Glacor seems to be more focused on the burst damage ability and timing your burst. Now, what I mean by that is knowing when to use what rotation. Now, I will say that Zerk is very nice as far as burst, so you think it'd be very good here, and it is. You can fit an entire Zerk rotation if you time it right within any of the specs shown. The only annoying thing is, say, after arms, if you use Meteor Strike on the arm to kill it, and then you get minions afterwards, you have things like Dragon 2H to quickly nuke through them, but that is precious seconds that you're wasting of your Zerk. However, it's required damage to do the boss, so it's not really damage wasted, but that's where things kind of get annoying. Or if you just start a Zerk rotation and you're getting forced away from pillars, that's kind of a Zerk wasted, and then you have to wait a whole minute in order to do that again. The melee overall definitely has its negatives here. I understand why it's more of an unpopular method. However, of all the unpopular methods I've tested in the past, obviously this is the first episode of me documenting stuff like this. This is just stuff I normally do in my spare time, where I'm just like, I wonder what this style does at this place, and I just go and do it either off stream or sometimes off stream. But I figured you guys here on YouTube might want to see some of this process where I just go out and test a bunch of stuff. So for the too long didn't listen variant, melee Glacor is definitely unpopular because it forces you away a lot. However, with modern melee upgrades such as Easy K and Vestments Armor and using Meteor Strike with a Greco swap because the boss has no defense, it is quite a fun setup, and I recommend y'all giving it a shot. Now, it is by far not the most efficient by any means. The kill times I am noticing are definitely slower than, say, a range camp or a mage camp setup. However, the smiles per hour with spamming declaws during a flurry or focus or frenzy, whatever the attack is called, when you're doing the prey flicking, is definitely worthwhile giving it a shot. And I can see a crit build like this going up to maybe 16, maybe 1700%, 1500% on the second kill, it felt manageable. So if you're running streaks and you're only able to get up to about 1000% anyways, and you're really comfortable with melee swaps, then I would for sure recommend trying this one out. Anyways though, without me rambling on for another 25-30 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. Let's go ahead and roll that outro. Ladies, gentlemen, and I did not forget about you sticky bombs. Thank you very much for watching. Your viewership is greatly appreciated as always. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for the next video. Peace.